Have you ever thought about what it would be like to have a mind so sharp it seems to read people like open books? Or to stay calm in the middle of chaos while everyone else loses their head? Let's dive into Classroom of the Elite, an anime that's not just about an elite school, but about the human mind, its complexities, and the psychological games we all play. At the center of it is Kiyotaka Ayanokōji, a walking enigma. Ready to figure out why this anime messes with our heads so much? I'm fascinated by stories that explore human behavior, and Classroom of the Elite does this like few others. More than entertainment, it's an invitation to reflect. Who are we? How do we handle our emotions? How far will we go to reach our goals? Let's dive into why Kiyotaka is so intriguing, and what he teaches us about self-control, manipulation, and ultimately, what it means to be human. Kiyotaka Ayanokōji doesn't stand out at first glance. Quiet, reserved, almost invisible. But underneath, he's a strategic genius. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, it's precise. He watches, analyzes, and understands people in an almost supernatural way. Have you ever met someone like that? Someone who seems to know what you're thinking before you even say it? That's what makes Kiyotaka so fascinating, and even a little scary. He's like a walking chessboard, always 3 moves ahead. What really hooks us in Classroom of the Elite isn't just the protagonist. It's how the anime weaves themes like meritocracy, social acceptance, and manipulation into a story that makes you question everything. Each episode is basically a philosophy class disguised as a school drama. Quotes from Socrates and Nietzsche force you to stop and think. And that's what we're going to do here. Reflect and connect the anime's ideas to real life. If you've ever tried to fit into a group or acted on impulse and regretted it later, this video will give you a new perspective. We'll talk about how self-control can be your greatest weapon, and how thin the line is between being a strategist and a manipulator. And more importantly, even with all his coldness, Kiyotaka is still deeply human. Want to know how? Stick with me until the end. This video isn't just about an anime. It's about understanding yourself and the people around you. By the end, you'll see your emotions, choices, and weaknesses in a new light. And who knows? Maybe you'll start recognizing the Kiyotakas crossing your path. Let's dive into this world and see what Classroom of the Elite has to teach us. Now that you're in the zone, let's dive deep into who Kiyotaka Ayanokōji really is. The guy who makes Classroom of the Elite so hypnotic. He's not just a high school student. He's a psychological puzzle that keeps you trying to piece things together. That quiet kid in the corner who seems to know more than he lets on? That's Kiyotaka. Smart, calm, unshakable. But behind that mask, there's a lot more going on. First, his intelligence. Kiyotaka is like a detective of the human mind. He watches, listens, and understands what people want, fear, and hide. Most of us feel the need to fill silence, but he doesn't. He truly listens. That makes him a master at reading intentions. It might seem like a superpower, but it's a skill. Have you ever really listened to someone without immediately thinking about your response? He does that all the time, and that's the secret. Another defining trait is emotional control. While everyone else freaks out over tests, fights, or betrayals, he analyzes everything like a chess game. Seneca said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Kiyotaka lives by that. He understands emotions and uses them to his advantage. Imagine how it'd feel to stay calm during an argument or a work crisis. He makes it look easy, but it takes practice and self-awareness. But it's not all strength. Kiyotaka is introverted, and that cuts both ways. He's self-sufficient, doesn't seek validation. But he struggles to form genuine bonds. You know that feeling when it seems like there's no manual on how to connect with someone? He feels that too. And he tries to get better, even if slowly. Recognizing your own weaknesses is the first step to growth. And he does it quietly, at his own pace. It's inspiring. What makes Kiyotaka unique is this mix of stoicism and calculated coldness. He has a minimalist, detached mindset. That helps him focus on what matters. But the cost is seeming distant, almost insensitive. You wonder, is this guy even human? and the anime throws that doubt right at you. Where does strength end and manipulation begin? Does being so controlled pull us away from our humanity? In the end, Kiyotaka is a mirror. He shows us parts of ourselves we try to avoid facing. Who hasn't wanted better control over their emotions or felt out of place in a group? He makes us reflect. Is it worth shutting the world out to protect ourselves? How do we balance strategy with empathy? Those questions stay with you as we keep exploring Classroom of the Elite. And believe me, there's still so much more to discover. Now that we've broken down Kiyotaka and what makes him such a magnetic character, let's take it a step further and talk about what Classroom of the Elite really brings to the table. This anime isn't just a story about teens at a fancy school. It's a deep dive into issues we all face, like popularity, acceptance, and how far we're willing to go to win in life. It reflects our reality and keeps us hooked the whole time. The school in the anime, Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing School, is like a microcosm of society. Students are divided into classes based on merit, competing for points that grant privileges. Sound familiar? Just like our daily race for recognition, whether at work, school, or social media. The anime shines a light on this pressure and asks, what really defines success? Being the smartest, the most ethical, or the most popular? Every episode of Classroom of the Elite is basically a philosophy lesson. Quotes from Plato, Nietzsche, and Machiavelli pop up often, making you think. Meritocracy is a strong theme. Does the hardest worker always get ahead? Often, those who understand the social game best come out on top. The anime shows that winning isn't just about effort, but strategy, and Kiyotaka is a quiet master of that. Another key point is impulsiveness, or rather, Kiyotaka's lack of it. How many times have you acted on impulse and regretted it later? The anime shows how impulsive decisions cause unnecessary conflicts. Kiyotaka stays calm, thinks before he acts. This teaches us that self-control can be the key to avoiding fights, frustration, and regrets. Imagine applying that in your own life, but what hits hardest is how the anime talks about human relationships. Popularity is a constant theme. Students want to be accepted, to fit in. Who hasn't done something just to please others and then regretted it? The anime shows that this quest for acceptance can lead to great moments, but also serious mistakes. And Kiyotaka, with his coldness, seems distant from it all. But is he really immune, or just protecting himself? In the end, Classroom of the Elite is a mirror of our lives, full of drama, strategy, and reflections that make us think. It makes you question how far it's worth playing the social game. How do you find balance between being yourself and adapting to the world? This mix of social critique and deep characters is what makes this anime so addictive and so relevant to our reality. Now that we've seen how Classroom of the Elite reflects our lives, let's dive into the psychological core of the anime. The battle between stoicism and machiavellianism that defines Kiyotaka Ayanokōji. He's a walking paradox, calm like a monk and strategic like a chess master. Let's explore how these two philosophies shape him, what they reveal about human nature, and why he's so fascinating. First, let's talk about stoicism. This philosophy teaches self-control, detachment, and acceptance of what we can't change. Kiyotaka is basically a modern stoic. He faces betrayals, pressure, and challenges without losing his cool. As Epictetus said, it's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them. Kiyotaka lives by this. He doesn't freak out. He analyzes. Imagine how it'd be to apply this in your daily life. But it's not all so zen. Kiyotaka also flirts with Machiavellianism, that view from Niccolo Machiavelli that people are driven by self-interest. He's not a villain, but he plays the manipulation game like no one else. He uses his ability to read people to get what he wants. Where's the line between using others and crossing a line? The anime makes us question if this is genius or coldness. On the psychological side, Kiyotaka shows traits of schizoid personality. He prefers to be alone, doesn't seek connections. He also flirts with psychopathic traits, like lack of empathy. According to the PCLR scale, psychopaths manipulate and feel shallow emotions. Kiyotaka isn't a classic psychopath, but sometimes it seems like he's just pretending to feel something. That's what makes him so intriguing. Speaking of emotions, neuroscientist Antonio Damasio says emotions are essential for decision making. Even super-controlled, Kiyotaka feels anger, doubt, compassion. But he uses these emotions as tools, not chains. He's not a machine. He's human, full of contradictions. Think about how your emotions affect your daily choices. To wrap up, I recommend the book Without Conscience by Robert Hare. It shows how psychopathic traits appear in everyday people. Kiyotaka makes us wonder, where's the line between strategist and manipulator? Strong and cold? Classroom of the Elite doesn't give easy answers, but it pushes you to think. And that's what makes this anime so addictive.